Plasma proteins. Plasma proteins are macromolecules which are present in the plasma of the blood, which helps in transportation of vitamins, lipids, minerals and some drugs from one place to other place of the body. When the drug is absorbed from the site of administration, the drug enters into the systemic circulation, and from the systemic circulation the drug is transported to the target tissue. For the transportation of drug from one place to another place, proteins are very important. So the proteins which transports the drugs from one place to another place are called plasma proteins. Plasma proteins are the substances which will not only transport the drugs from one place to another, they also transport hormones, minerals, vitamins and certain lipids. The proteins which are present in plasma are albumins, which comprises 55%, globulin, which contains 38% of the blood, 7% contains fibrinogen. Among these specific plasma proteins which are present in our body, albumins, globulins, fibrinogen and alpha-1 acid glycoprotein, C-reactive protein and some lipoproteins are also present in the blood. In today's class, let us try to learn about plasma protein binding. What is plasma protein binding and what is the importance of plasma protein binding in distribution of drugs? When drug is absorbed in the tissue, when it is administered, it should be transported from one place to the other place to show its pharmacological action. So in this process, the plasma proteins will absorb the drugs will go and bind on these plasma proteins, and these plasma proteins will act like a carrier and they will transport these drugs to all parts of the body wherever targets are available. So in drugs, we have acidic drugs, basic drugs and sometimes neutral drugs, salt form. So acidic drugs will bind to the albumin and basic drugs, mostly alkaloids, will bind to the alpha-1 acid glycoprotein. The drug which is bound to the plasma proteins will not show its pharmacological action, and the drug which is available in free form will show its pharmacological action. Duration of action of drug especially depends on the plasma protein binding capacity. The drug which is bound to the plasma proteins can't be excreted from the kidneys, because the drug which has high affinity to bind on the proteins will stay in the body for a long period of time. The drug which is bound to the proteins will not show pharmacological action. The drug which is bound to the proteins can't be excreted through urine. The drug which is bound to the proteins will not show pharmacological action. The drugs which has high protein binding capacity has very low volume of distribution. Volume of distribution is nothing but the amount of drug which is distributed in the tissues. If the drug is bound to the plasma proteins, it is not distributed in the body. So volume of distribution especially talks about free form of drug which is distributed in tissues. The drug which has high protein binding capacity will have low volume of distribution. The best example for the drug which has high protein binding capacity is sulfonamides. In sulfonamides we have sulfadoxine, which has high protein binding capacity. So sulfadoxine can stay in the body for weeks because of its high protein binding capacity. The drug which has high protein binding capacity can't be metabolized quickly, it can't be excreted from the body quickly, and its duration of action is also very high. Higher the protein binding capacity, longer the duration of action of the drug. Sometimes patients with hepatic injury and liver failure cases, the production of albumins and globulins are not up to the mark. So in that case, patient will have hypoalbuminemia, and in that cases, due to less amount of plasma proteins in the body, the drug binding capacity decreases and free form of drug increases in the blood, and it causes toxicity. So in these cases, the patients who are on liver injury as well as on kidney injury patients, doses should be restricted. The amount of dose which is given should be decreased. There are so many drug interactions which are possible with protein binding. The drugs which has high affinity for protein binding, they displaces the other drugs which are having less protein binding capacity. For example, if we take sulfonamides like sulfadoxine, when sulfadoxine is given along with sulfonylureas like glimepiride, sulfadoxine will go and displace sulfonylureas from the proteins, and the free form of sulfonylurea increases like glimepiride. Glimepiride free form increases in the blood, and it shows toxicity of sulfonylureas, which increases the pharmacological action of sulfonylureas and may cause hypoglycemia. Plasma proteins are very important for distribution of drugs from one place to another place to show its action, to find the target in the body. Along with the transportation of drugs, plasma proteins also transports the vitamins, minerals and hormones from one place to another place. The high plasma protein binding capacity decreases the excretion of drug, decreases the excretion from the urine, decreases metabolism, and high protein binding capacity of the drugs are having less pharmacological actions. If drug has more free form in the blood, they have more pharmacological action. If the drug is available as plasma bound, it will show no pharmacological action. Plasma proteins also maintains the oncotic pressure, which maintains blood pressure, and they also maintains the fluid in the blood.